This is the Extra Point Podcast from Arizona's family.
All right, who is going to play quarterback for the Arizona Cardinals in the upcoming season? Well, I have an idea. This man threw 11 touchdowns in 10 games for the Cardinals back in 1996. Boomer Esiason from Game Time joins us here on the Extra Point. Boomer, do you have a couple plays left in you here for the Arizona Cardinals?
Mark, I got out of there as quickly as I could, and I never looked back when I did leave. So good luck to Colt McCoy, I guess. I guess he's going to be the starting quarterback, I would imagine. But it's not going to be an easy start for Coach Gannon and his staff. This is obviously a tear down. It looks like it's going to be a total rebuild, depending on where they end up in next year's draft. And if they end up in next year's draft with the first overall pick, there's no way that they're going to be passing on Caleb Williams. So that makes me wonder what the future for Kyler Murray really is going to be.
Yeah, we're wondering that out loud as well. So how do you go about playing this season? I'm even kind of worried. We have 6 games on our air this year. I don't even know if they're going to win a game this season. If you're the Cardinals, do you even want to win a game this season? Can they win a game this season?
Well, of course they can win a game this season. Look, Coach Gannon is a great coach. He's put together a really good staff, by the way. But, the coaches don't play. They try to put the players in the best position in order for them to win games. And not having Kyler 100% at the beginning of the season, most likely is going to get the Cardinals off to a bad start. But they said the same thing about the Cardinals when I was the quarterback there back in 1996, I think it was. And, quite frankly, we heard it, we saw it, we read it, we didn't like it, and we got off to a bad start that year, but then we finally found our footing in the middle of the season. But I just think that in today's NFL, with the quarterbacks that are out there, the teams that they're going to be facing the first 8 weeks of the season, it's very, very likely that they're going to get off to a really poor start. But that doesn't mean that they can't win or that they don't want to win. Unless, they get into December and January and they see that Caleb Williams is staring them right in the face, then they might tank at that point.
All right, so we went in the vault. The vault's right next to our podcast room. Can you see what we're looking at right now here? Can you see this?
Yes, I do see that. Yes.
Okay, it looks like the Meadowlands. Is that Rob Moore or is that Rod Tidwell? Who is that?
That looks like it's Rob Moore. Rob Tidwell would be in the movie. Rob Moore was my teammate.
How did you not end up in the movie, by the way? This looks like a guy who's still slinging it around pretty good. How did you kind of – look at you. Going right to the teeth of the Giants defense. There was some desire there on a team that wasn't winning. How'd you kind of keep it together?
It was very hard because it was very controversial when I was there. I did start out as the starter. Vince Tobin, my coach, benched me in the first 2 games, I think, at halftime, or 2 out of the first 3 games at halftime. And I finally went in and said to Vince, I said, Vince, listen, if you keep benching me at halftime, then everybody in that locker room has got an excuse that it's the quarterback's fault. I don't know if you as a defensive head coach understand the dynamics between the quarterback and his teammates. So let me explain it to you. And I said to Vince, look, if you want to start Kent Graham, then start him and bench me. But you can't keep going back and forth and not making any decisions. So I thought when I left his office that day after week 3, I think it was week 3, I thought he was going to say to me, that was a very adult thing that you said to me. I understand. And you know what? I'm going to stick with you. I believe in you. I came back that Wednesday morning to start the week off for the 4th game of the year, and he told me that Kent Graham was going to start. So I practically benched myself. And I felt like, okay, I'll just be a good teammate, and I'll go out there and I'll run scout team with Stoney Case, and that's exactly what I did. Kent got hurt in that Giant game that's over your shoulder right there. Then I went in and took over, and then the next week we played at Washington, and that's where we threw for like 523 yards. And I remember throwing 2 interceptions out of my first 5 attempts. And Jim Fossil, who was our offensive coordinator at that time, said, if you don't start throwing it to our guys, they're going to bench you again. And I just said, if our guys would start going to the right places, I think we'd be okay. And then, lo and behold, that game goes into overtime. We throw for 523. And Jim says to me, I'm glad we didn't bench you. And I said, I'm damn glad you didn't bench me either.
Well, this video is great. Looks like you beat the Giants the next week and set the Valley on fire here And we got to get you back out here. You got to take the NFL on CBS on the road, and maybe Game Time with Boomer Esiason here on the road. So your show is on our air. We've got a whole new sports network here, AZ Family Sports. We're excited about that. Tell me about some of the guests, because I'm looking at the list here, and I can't wait to listen to what some of these guys have to say about their various sports.
Well, I mean, Trevor Lawrence, of course, from the Jacksonville Jaguars, Ryan Presley from the Houston Astros. I'm going to have new NCAA president Charlie Baker on. He's stepping into a hornet's nest, as we all know. Bobby Hurley, the UConn basketball head coach that just won the national championship. It goes on and on. Justin Simmons from the Denver Broncos, Patrick Peterson, who's now playing with the Pittsburgh Steelers. And, you know, I've been very lucky to have a lot of great guests and really timely guests, if you ask me, because there's so much going on in the sports world right now, and there's so much to talk about. And I think college sports in general, with everything that's going on from transgender to Title IX to NIL to transfer portal, to want to take that job on as the NCAA president, like I said, Charlie Baker is going to have his hands full, and I got a lot of good questions for him. Hopefully he'll answer them honestly.
Where do you think this thing lands? Is like Ohio State going to play the Dallas Cowboys one day in Saudi Arabia? What does sports look like here in the next 20 years?
Well, I'll tell you, this whole thing with LIV and PGA golf, first and foremost, is shocking to all of us when that was announced. And realizing what happened to the PGA Tour and how they almost lost everything and had to basically take what LIV was offering in order to survive, I says a lot about what the next 20 years might be, depending on where the money is coming from. And even, today, when you look at what the players are making, take a look at Kyler Murray's contract extension. Look at what Aaron Judge is making for the New York Yankees. Look at what LeBron and Kevin Durant and Nikola Jokic are making. I mean, the money is really, just exploded all over the universe. And now even the Saudi Arabians golf is not enough. They got to get involved in soccer, whether owning soccer teams in Europe or now buying players or bringing them to their soccer league into their country. So I don't know where this ends. I don't know how many more people are going to be impacted by it. But all I do know is that covering the world of sports, I think, is interesting simply because of the financial ramifications that are going on right now.
And one bold prediction here, I could see an international Super Bowl here in the next 5 years. Do you think this is NFC? Is this the San Francisco 49ers and Brock Purdy? Is this Jalen Hurts and the Eagles getting back there? Is this Josh Allen and the Bills? Is this your Bengals? Is this the Chiefs? Who do you feel like the next couple Super Bowls here? Where does the road run through?
Well, to me, the AFC is loaded with great quarterbacks, and the AFC South just went through a whole new transformation, and they drafted 3 new quarterbacks in that division to go against Trevor Lawrence. You got Lamar Jackson and Deshaun Watson and Kenny Pickett going against Joe Burrow. You think out west, and you're like, oh, my God, it's Justin Herbert, it's Patrick Mahomes, it's Jimmy Garoppolo now with the Raiders, and, of course, Russell Wilson and Sean Payton in Denver. I feel like everybody in the AFC is reloaded. In the NFC, that's where the opportunity lies. So when I look at the rosters, I say the best roster in football, I believe, is San Francisco. But they may not have the best quarterback situation. This kid, Jalen Hurts, basically, I've watched him now the last 3 years. He's earned every penny of his new contract. And every one of us should be really, really happy for him because, he had to bounce around in college just to be able to get a chance to play in the NFL. And then he was drafted in the second round. And as a second rounder, he outplayed his contract 2 years into his contract. And the Philadelphia Eagles did the right thing by extending him. So I don't see how the Eagles are not in the NFC Championship game, especially with the way that they are built and the job that Howie Roseman has done there as general manager.
If you're the Arizona Cardinals, Monty Ossenfort, the new GM out here, how long do you think it retakes to build a roster these days in the NFL?
Well, it all starts with the quarterback. And, I questioned Kyler Murray at the beginning of last season. And, the previous regime put a ridiculous contract clause in the contract when they gave it to him. And for some reason, he was insulted by that, or other people were insulted for him. He signed the contract with the clause in there, knowing why the clause was in there. So I don't know if Cliff Kingsbury let him run the team or how they treated him or what his leadership expertise is. But it's been, really disappointing to watch him play the way that he did and then unfortunately get hurt. So, if you're the Cardinals, and most people are saying that their over-under number going into the season is 4.5, which is the lowest in the league. If they end up with the first overall draft pick, they cannot pass up on Caleb Williams, the quarterback out of USC, assuming that he doesn't get hurt. He is a can't-miss player. He is in the Andrew Luck, Patrick Mahomes kind of sphere of great players to come out of college. And I'm telling you, if they end up with the worst record, then I think that's where they start. You have to start anew with a new quarterback. And that's why I wonder, where could Kyler Murray be playing next year? It's not likely that he'll be playing in the AFC just simply because of all the quarterbacks. Maybe somewhere in the NFC and somewhere, it could be, a team in the NFC South that could be looking for a quarterback.
So you think somebody might take a chance on Kyler, and maybe could the Cardinals even get something via the trade market, in your opinion?
Well, the other problem is going to be the salary cap hit, that they're going to end up taking. And they just took one with DeAndre Hopkins. This is how mismanaged this team has been for the last 3 or 4 years. And it has nothing to do with the guys that are there now. The guys that are there now are trying to reset the culture, and they're getting rid of, some of the players that they don't believe fit what they are trying to do. And when you're trying to win with younger players, the last thing you want is to have disgruntled older players around impacting that locker room. So it makes sense to me what they did with DeAndre Hopkins, take the salary cap hit now, and then maybe have to take another one next year if, in fact, they end up with the first overall pick and select Caleb Williams, by removing Kyler Murray, of course.
I could see the dominoes falling that way for sure. It's very interesting to hear that from a national perspective as we kind of stare at this locally and think, how is this going to get back to a spot where the Cardinals are relevant again? Your conversation with Patrick Peterson, he's still a name out here, and things got there was some bad blood as he left. What did he have to say? What were you most looking forward to talking to him about in your interview on Game Time?
It was interesting because he didn't have a great year in Minnesota last year. And I think one of the things I wanted to ask him is, why did he pick Pittsburgh? And it wasn't just money. He said he wanted to play for Mike Tomlin. And he also said that, one of the reasons he also picked there is that they have a number of young defensive backs in the room, and he's going to be an extension of the coaching staff. And he's hoping to have a mentor kind of relationship with a number of their players, including Joey Porter Jr., who they drafted out of Penn State. He loved his time in Arizona. He loved going against Larry Fitzgerald. He enjoyed every moment of it. But, it's like all of us at one time or another end up, having relationships fractured over money, or the way that we see ourselves, or the way other people see us. I mean, it happened to me in Arizona. It happened to him in Arizona. It may feel the same way about Minnesota, I'm not sure. But, he just realizes that, he's coming towards the end of his career. He's one of the great players of his time and his decade. And I would just say that he's going to be a first ballot Hall of Famer, no question.
All right, and who's the guest you're chasing for Game Time? Who's the one that's kind of on your list that you're circling?
Well, I'm trying to get a hold of either Tom Brady or Aaron Rodgers, and these guys are a pain in the ass. And I say that's funny. You know what I mean? You got to get through layers of people to get to them, and sometimes to get them to sit down for about a 40-minute interview is not the easiest thing to do.
Could you have landed yourself an interview with yourself back in the day?
Of course. Yes. Back in the day, I wasn't making $50 million a year and living on some yacht somewhere or flying my private jet around. You know what I mean?
Well, here's to Game Time, getting that rolling again. We go back to the video here as we finish up. This was against the Giants at Sun Devil. I guess, yeah, you had it rolling. It looks like the crowd is cheering you on here. Were these some good days running off the field here, being cheered by the Sun Devil faithful?
Yeah, they really were. I got to tell you, it was fun. I really did enjoy my playing time out there, living out there. I had a bunch of really great teammates. We finally figured it out offensively. We had a 3 or 4 game winning streak right in the middle of this. And, that was fun. We beat the Eagles at home. We beat the Giants at home. We had just beaten the Washington Redskins with that 523 yards. And then, unfortunately, the bottom fell out when we went to Minnesota and lost at home to Dallas. So we were relevant there for a while. It was fun, but unfortunately, it only lasted 1 year for me.
Well, we appreciate the time walking down memory lane. And, look forward to seeing and watching Game Time here on Arizona's Family, your work with the NFL on CBS. And thanks for making time for us today.
My pleasure. Thanks, and thanks for showing the show.
The Extra Point Podcast is a production of 3TV, CBS 5, and azfamily.com in Phoenix, Arizona.